It's Reagan and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. This reading vlog I'm excited for because I am tackling two ultra popular like romantasy centered authors. One of them I've read and loved many times and the other very popular first timer for me. But before we dive into the TBR itself, first a word from this video's sponsor. Hi friends, I'm so excited to say that this video is sponsored by NU, or National University. As I've made it very clear on this channel, I love fall so much. There's just something about transitioning into a new season that makes me so excited. From being able to check out a new cozy fall read, or finally try that delicious latte from one of my favorite coffee shops that's now seasonally appropriate, or just tackling a cozy goal that's been on my to-do list for a long time. But alongside all of that incredible cozy goodness, fall can also bring a little bit of chaos as well. Fall can be a very busy time of year for so many, which is also why I feel like flexibility is so important when it comes to bigger goals. Speaking of bigger goals, that's why, again, I'm so excited to be partnering up with National University, because not only are they an accredited nonprofit university, but they also specifically celebrate this need for flexibility that so many of us need in our lives. They are a resource designed for busy adults who want to pursue education but need some flexibility to be able to do so. NU offers online programs and real resources to make the desire to pursue education fit within your existing life versus the other way around. And they offer the most comprehensive degree and program options in the United States for working and non-traditional students, with over 150 plus degree programs, credentials, and certificates available to choose from. Even better, they also have amazing financial resources, having a variety of scholarships available at the start of each term. If education happens to be one of your new goals for the fall season, NU could possibly be a great option. Click the link in my description or scan this QR code to see their current scholarship offers for new enrolling students. Thank you again to National University for sponsoring this video, but without further ado, let's go ahead and dive back into the video. So let's get down to business and talk about the TBR. The first book I'm reading is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I've never read an Ali Hazelwood book, and I feel like she's probably, like, along with Emily Henry, the most popular contemporary romance writer. This is her fantasy mashup with contemporary romance. It's a vampire werewolf political marriage sort of situation. The sequel I think comes out this month, and I've been meaning to read this now for a long time, you know, just to see for myself at least. I'm very curious about Ali Hazelwood. I don't know if this book is going to be for me per se, but I feel like I might like her books in general. So I'm excited to, you know, test that theory out. And then the other book I hope to read for this vlog, I don't have a physical copy yet, and that is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. I'm just gonna read this on my Kindle for the time being, but this is this author's newest release and I am pumped. It's a god mortal romance story, and I love Rebecca Ross's writing. It's lyrical, it's beautiful. She writes such fantastic yearning. It's basically everything I love in the romantasy space. So I feel like it's a safe bet for this fall romance reading vlog, because I really feel like that's gonna be a home run for me versus Bride, Vampires and Werewolves, which I typically like. I'm not sure. It's an experiment. But welcome to the vlog. I'm excited to check out both of these books with you guys. And without further ado, let's go ahead and go make some lunch, actually. That's what I need to do. It's time to make some lunch. Also, look at this little fallscape going on. I'm a big meal repeater for breakfast and lunch. Not so much for dinner, especially breakfast. But I've been in a peanut butter and jelly mood for lunch that I literally cannot shake for the life of me. Lucky for me, it's delicious, nutrient dense. There's like that New York Times article that says like time, energy, and nutrition, like a PB&J is like incredible, which when I saw that I was like, didn't need an excuse before. Thrilled the science is backing my love. But anyway, I'm gonna have a kiwi. I'm gonna make a quick PB&J with raspberry jam. It's gonna be lunch. And there's something beautiful about a lunch coming together in 5 minutes. I don't mind making an elaborate lunch, but not today. Going wild today, crunchy peanut butter. I am almost out of soft white bread, which I know for any non-American, this is like not real food. It is so soft and delicious though. But it is a key ingredient to PB&J. The interplay of the peanuts and the crunchy peanuts with the tart raspberry jam creates a sensational experience on one's palate. I got yellow kiwis, which I don't know if I've ever had before. I might have 2 kiwis, to be honest. I love kiwis. Feels like the
I'm very happy with that. It looks like a Swiss roll.
Perfect combination, if you ask me. All my puzzle drawers over there. Good morning, friends. It's time to sit down and do some reading of my book. I've opted, I think, for the one I'm the most scientifically curious about to start with anyway, and that is Bride. So we're gonna read a good chunk of this. Need to go get ready and dress for the day, and I'm gonna do a more in-depth update in a bit. But tell me low-key, I went into Bride thinking I was gonna hate it, but with an open mind. But like, it was really like, let's just see what all this is about. I'm having a pretty good time. It's still very early days, but I am entertained. And I have thoughts about that, which I'm gonna go more in depth about in a bit. But I needed to give my live reaction of being absolutely Fed My Own Words by Ali Hazelwood. She clearly knows what she's doing, so far anyway. And this is what I get for trying to be a hater. Love it, love it. Anyway, I'm gonna go get dressed now. Hello, let's do a reading update of Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I've read 80 pages of this so far. And low-key, I really went into this with hope, always, but also kind of the expectation that even though I'm hopeful I'm gonna not like the book, because I feel like I've been disappointed by so many like popular romance fantasy novels in the past. Low-key though, I'm having a lot of fun reading this, and I feel like it's Ali Hazelwood's writing style. This book is not taking itself too seriously, but the stylization is really working for me. I feel like it's a nice combination of like urban fantasy romance, which I feel like was the romance fantasy genre pre-romantasy, if that makes sense. And I love urban fantasy romance. It tends to be a lot of books. There tends to be a lot more yearning, and there tends to be like cheesy elements that are like kind of classic and are consistent with like multiple series. Think werewolves, think vampires, think powerful families, but again in these sort of modern city locales. I enjoy those series a lot, and there's definitely that style of writing happening here. Also though, she's including like popular romantasy elements, I feel like, in this book, but I can also see her like contemporary romance background shining through too, particularly with the dialogue. The dialogue is a lot less cringe than I feel like I typically run into for these types of book series, which I'm liking. But I actually think the star of the show, structure-wise, so far, no main male character point of view. I personally am never interested in being in a guy's head in a romance story, particularly because it's not like their head's full of yearning. It's just a place I'm not interested in being in, and I feel like it removes some of the yearning, interesting aspects of their character when you're just very aware of their thoughts and they just become very bro dude energy, and I'm not really looking for bro dude energy to be in my romance stories. So like, I like to keep them at a distance is what I'm saying. And so far, no perspective chapters of this guy, which I think is good because he's a werewolf like alpha, which in general is a setup in a romance book I'm not typically a huge fan of. He's being kept at a distance and he's not super annoying yet, so TBD. I mean, there's a lot of this book I have yet to experience in terms of some of the notoriety it has gained, but we'll just see. But anyway, let's talk about what this book is about. Follows our main character, Misery, which is an insane name. She is the daughter of the vampire leader of this world. Basically, there's humans, there's werewolves, vampires. They all live in their own little section of the city. It's also kind of giving like mob family energy. And because there's like a vampire family, werewolf family, they all have politics, power, influence over their own section of this city. Our main character, Misery, was a human hostage for her childhood to gain an alliance with the humans, and now in her adult life, she's being married to their werewolf leader to maintain an alliance. But she has agency in this situation because she's actually doing it for her own reasons, because her best friend has gone missing, and she thinks by being able to gain access to some of this werewolf information, she could find out what happened. So Misery, vampire, marries Low, alpha werewolf. What could possibly go wrong? I'll tell you what, I'm pretty intrigued. Dialogue is good. I like Misery as a main character. She's funny, spunky, deflects pretty much every situation with humor. But she's had a lot happen in her life, so like classic trauma response, and I think it's landing well. She's giving spunky main character, but not one that I'm actually finding annoying. One that I'm actually like, she's kind of funny. So again, it's working. The writing is good in that way. Also, I feel like Ali Hazelwood knows when to lean into the funness of the tropes, setting, and inspiration that she's pulling from. Like, she's not trying to reinvent the wheel here. She's trying to write a fun version of this story. And I feel like and part of the fun version of the story is like leaning on influences and setting and character devices that we all know and love. And I feel like that's working pretty well. And all I have to say is I've read 80 pages and she's married and she's now in the werewolf camp. So what's gonna happen from here? I don't know, but we've got a lot. We've got a missing friend. She's just trying to survive. There's politics and misunderstanding. There's clearly a romance to be had. I'll read and I'll let y'all know. Time for a reading sprint of The Bride. Let's get to it. Great news. I've read 130 pages of this now. I'm flying through it. You know, maybe this is a great example of always be willing to try new things or keep trying something that you didn't think you liked that much before. Because I really do think it is because I feel like this leans more in the urban fantasy romance department than the romantasy department. And some people might think those are the same thing, but they're really not. You know, they're really not. And I'm finding this just to be entertaining. I like our main character. She's funny. She might be a lot for some people because she's constantly making jokes, but it's working for me. I like the back and forth between her and the main character. I like her pursuing her own investigation in werewolf territory. The world building, pretty interesting. Lots of secrets happening within each different faction, human, werewolves, vampires, and I'm always intrigued to learn more about how their different societies work. We obviously haven't really ventured too far into like the steamy romance department. So we'll see, you know, if that derails me from the overall reading experience. But the like smut part of this book, I'm actually liking a lot. So I don't know. Yeah, and it's not like the most stunning piece of literature I've ever read, but I am finding it entertaining. Let's make a quick lunch together. It's one of my go-tos. It's just gonna be like a Mediterranean salad bowl situation. Just gotta chop up a few things and then assemble. It's very easy. And lunch is served. everyone. Let's do a reading update of Bride. And apologies, it is the next day. My vlogging got a little distracted, but I've made incredible progress on this book in like a 24-hour period. It is so engaging, and I feel like it's been a long time since I've read like a pure romancy romance. Not like a Rebecca Ross situation where it's like central romantic plotline, but like beautiful lyrical writing, like that kind of energy. This is like romance, but it's fun, and I also like the fantasy components too, but it's romance forward, and like the progression of the characters, their relationship, like that is like the central element to the plot. I hate to say that like I'm surprised I'm liking it so much, but I think the book itself is so notorious that I had some preconceived ideas of what to expect, and I think because there's an element to this book, let's say, which I haven't gotten to yet, I assumed the whole book was going to be like super smutty. Because of that, I also maybe assumed that there wasn't going to be like a lot of back and forth, but there is. And don't get me wrong, it is steamy and smutty, and I'm sure it's only going to progress, but I have found it to just be like really entertaining. And there's a few key things in particular that I like. One, it centers werewolves, but I feel like for an alpha main character, he's so much less annoying than what you typically get, and I'm so eternally grateful for that, because I really struggle with werewolf romances because I hate that dynamic. They're very like frat bro core energy, and that's just like not for me personally. But I feel like Lo in this book is like capable, protective of his family, but he's like pretty chill and normal, like aside from the whole like alpha werewolf thing. And he clearly is yearning for our main character the whole book, and it's so entertaining. I love a good miscommunication trope, and I clocked it, and I'm sure you're supposed to, from page 1, and it has just been so entertaining throughout the whole thing, and I just feel like I'm on the edge of my seat reading every scene of them. Also, I feel like there has been a good amount of scenes watching these characters like get to know each other and have understanding, and I feel like the author's done a really good job of balancing this like faded romance, which again, I feel like she did really well in this, because again, faded romance sometimes can lack development, but I feel like she did that and also provided development between the characters, which I'm liking. And just the whole progression of their romance so far from where I'm at has just been really entertaining. Lots of yearning, lots of back and forth, and lots of yearning where like the character doesn't even realize that she's yearning. I also, again, appreciate the world building. I think the vampire politics, the werewolf politics are pretty interesting, and it provides like a good backdrop for the romance to play out in, but also could stand alone like by itself. Like both plots here are pretty interesting and cohesive and like thought through, not nonsensical or distracting, which is really all I ask for in books like this. I don't know, I find them to be like two likable main characters. I like their banter, I like their skill sets. They feel really normal. And again, I think that's like the contemporary romance like shining through. It's like they're just two normal people in an extraordinary situation because they're a werewolf and a vampire, and like, you know, they're politically powerful, but like I like that that's not like their entire personality. More yearning, more romance, more likable characters than I was liking. I like the urban fantasy setting, the politics, and I can see how this could be a series easily, okay? And we'll just see what happens. I'm on page 250 for the record, and that's where I'm at. Yeah. Ice cream cake for the birthday.
Happy Burr Club.
Unfortunately, my copy of Bride experienced a little accident, but that's okay. We persist. I only have about a third of this book left, so I'm actually gonna sit down now and do a bit of a reading sprint. We'll see. I still haven't experienced much Omegaverse core stuff yet, so I guess pending final opinion. But let's read, I suppose. I've arrived at the first Omegaverse reference, and I won't deny that it did make me absolutely lose it in laughter. It's just so, and like I'm actually grateful I had a warning, because if I just came across that with no expectation that I was gonna be there, I'd be like, what is happening right now? But I guess that's that. finished Bride. I'll just say, I feel like this book went from like 0, very limited spice, to 100, kind of in that last section of this book. And what a time it was. Personally, not my favorite, but I think I do stand by still all the things I said in regards to like Ali Hazelwood's character writing, banter. She still did like a good job, but like also like the end, I'm like, what is even going on here? Personally, I would say, you know, didn't need all that. Didn't need all that. I liked a lot of the other romantic components, like the character chemistry, the back and forth. I cannot imagine picking this book up without forewarning. It would be a shocking experience. It still was a shocking experience, but without warning, it would be, I can only imagine. Anyway, all that to say is I am excited and ready to move on now to Wild Reverence. Still in the mood for romance, but I think a little bit of a different style. And I already know Rebecca Ross is gonna have beautiful writing, great yearning, and a beautiful fantasy world that I'm very excited to dive into. Bride was an experience. Honestly, for most of it, I had a really good time. I think it's up to you to decide if you think it would be worth your time. It was better in a lot of ways than I was expecting, but I'm still grappling with my overall thoughts for like the whole thing. Anyway, I'm gonna make dinner now. I'm gonna make some lasagna soup, which I think will be pretty tasty. So let's get to chopping, shall we? And dinner is done. I accidentally took a break with my dramas. Things have just been busy, but we're back on Prisoner of Beauty. I love this show. I accidentally took 2 weeks off from it, but we're getting back into it. And look at this ambiance. Look at this ambiance. Good morning. Starting the day off with a little yummy treat. And look at this nice fall scene. I'm also happy to report I have started my second book of the blog, Wild Reverence, which 10 pages in, very different vibe. A vibe I am really liking though. I love anything centering God, so I really feel like this is gonna speak to me on a very specific level, you know? Morning, let's do a readings, friends. Hello, it's me here with the reading update. Here it is, of Wild Reverence. Happy to say I started this morning. Also, tonally could not be more different than Bride, if it tried. I have read a lot of Rebecca Ross, maybe all of her books, not certain on that, but this might be too early to say. This might be my favorite. I've read 50 pages, but the first 50 pages of this book were so strong and so full of things that I'm just personally obsessed with. The stylization of the story, the concept, like how she's putting forth this experience captivated me instantaneously, okay? Instantaneously. There was no moment so far that I haven't just been absolutely locked in. But Wild Reverence introduces us to the main character, Matilda. We meet her as a young god. She comes into this godly world, and her world is quite small. She is part of the underworld. There's like two realms of gods, the sky and underground. And Matilda's mother is like very powerful. She herself isn't. And because she's a middling god, she has to be very careful, because in this domain, gods take on other gods to like steal their power, to like move up the godly ranks, if you will. So she only really knows like this tight circle of allies surrounding her mother. One of them is like the god of war. And we just, initially anyway, just have these really interesting stories and vignettes of her childhood kind of growing up in this isolated situation. Like, the quality of the writing is stunning, and she starts to get these scrolls of dreams from another god, and in that scroll is like a mortal boy, and they begin to like have dreams together. It's just like the vibe immediately is perfect. And what I mean by this is like the author is capturing this sort of strange quality to godly stories, and she's able to infuse that sort of like parable element to the whole thing, where you're supposed to glean away some like larger message of hubris surrounding the gods. Like, they're fickle, they're demanding, they have these like strange happenings with mortals, sometimes love, sometimes hate, like these types of things. And I feel like she captures that feeling so perfectly, and I already just feel like deeply enmeshed in the world and connected. And again, I've only read 50 pages, like 10% of this book, but it's pulled me in immediately. And our main character's magic makes her be able to go really fast, and she can travel between realms. So I think we're gonna start to see more of this godly sphere plus the mortal sphere and how she's gonna interact with it. But just like the author's captured this feeling of the gods so well. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish this before the end of this vlog, but it'll definitely be the first book I read for my next vlog, because I love it. I love it. I love it so far. Hey everyone, I have run out of time and need to end the vlog. Alas, I wasn't able to finish Wild Reverence, but do not worry, I'm gonna carry on reading that book in my next vlog, because I'm obsessed with it. Pretty much in every way, shape, or form. This is maybe the most perfect book for me I've read in a minute. So let's break it down with the amount that I have read. Some final thoughts and feelings, if you will. So I've read 150 pages of this book, and I'm obsessed, because it's deeply romantic and beautiful, one. And it's definitely gonna be very romance forward in the plot, but Rebecca Ross is using gods, the godly world, the godly realms, the dynamics between gods in a very true fashion, in my opinion. She's not just using it in name, but it feels to me that she's really trying to embody the vibe of using these types of characters within her book. It's not just like, we don't just have like a godly character that really is just a human and they just have a godly association for the sake of the plot. Like, the stylization, how the characters move through the world, the mortal and godly realm feel completely different from one another. And she's also clearly drawing inspiration on like real godly fables to influence not only the plot, but how the characters move through the story. But that does not mean that these godly characters don't have any dynamic elements to their character, or that they in no way feel human or mortal at all, because they're all still influenced by the mortal realm in their own ways. And so there's like very fascinating character moments at play too. But I'm rambling. 150 pages in, I'm obsessed. This is reading like a godly love story, Perhaps, and the thing is, I don't know emotionally like what direction this is going to go, but I'm a little fearful it's going to rock me. But like all of the influences are there, from our main character having magic herself, utilizing that, having to make various deals with gods that she knows, that she doesn't know, and again, how that sort of impacts the story, how mortals view her as an immortal being, how she views herself within those expectations. We also get point of view chapters from Vincent too, and I love that these characters met when they were young children, and then there's a bit of a gap when they meet again in adulthood, and there's just something so faded and romantic about their interactions, and it's just a perfect example of how like insta-love can work and be done super well, because I believed instantaneously that the connection that these two characters had was on another plane of fate, let's say. But I'm eating this up. This is beautiful, stunning, everything I could want. So far, in the first 150 pages I've read, my favorite Rebecca Ross book so far. I am like, this might be becoming my whole personality, but TBD on that. I'm liking it. I'm gonna finish it. And then obviously I also read the entirety of Bride, which is just over 400 pages, and I don't actually have my physical copy any longer because I immediately lent it to a friend because I need her thoughts and feelings. I just basically need someone else in my life to experience this book, so you know, I'm not the only one basically. The thing about this is, my primary takeaway from Bride is that a lot of it I liked. There is definitely elements of it though that were not for me, not my personal preference. So with that, I'm like not really sure where I stand with the series overall, but like I did like it, but the parts that I didn't enjoy, I like didn't enjoy. And it's not necessarily a fault of the book because it's like known that that's going to be a thing. It's either going to work for you or it's not going to work for you, if that makes sense. With that in mind though, I did come away from the reading experience of Bride really liking Ali Hazelwood's writing, and I for sure am going to read more of her romance novels moving forward because I really appreciated her character chemistry, her character banter, her world building, all of those things. And like, you know, maybe in a year I'll be ready for Bride Part 2. Right now though, I do need a bit of a break, and I'll be reading things more like Wild Reverence, which I would say is like more my romantic preference, but hey, that's just me. But I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Thank you again to this video's sponsor, which is National University. If you guys want to learn more, I will of course have that link down below. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye.